Okay, I'm going to get started by welcoming everyone. Welcome to Watang Yu. Nice to see everyone here this morning. Welcome to everyone online as well who are joining us. Today is the third day of a 5-day course that I'm teaching. And when I'm teaching this course, those of you guys that are coming in just for the morning, you guys are welcome to come in and join if you like. We just invite everybody to come in and join, but we do have a course going on here over the next 5 days. We started on Monday and then we finish up on Friday. So welcome to all of you guys here. If you're here just for the morning or you're here for the entire week, welcome to everyone who's joining online as well. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to start with some meditation to guide you guys in a meditation session. And then afterwards, I'm going to share a talk on transforming the 3 poisons of craving, anger, and ignorance. This is where you understand 3 of the detailed things that the Buddha discovered in the mind that's actually causing the mind to experience things like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All those feelings can actually be eliminated from the mind through training of the mind. Oftentimes people think that these feelings are coming from something external, but it's actually coming from your own mind. This is something that the Buddha discovered, and you can actually apply the tools and the techniques that he discovered, and you can actually eliminate this out of the mind, where your mind gets to a point where it's enlightened. What enlightenment is it's a mental state that you experience in this life where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. You will no longer experience any of those discontent feelings. So we start each one of our classes with meditation because meditation is an important component of helping you to get to enlightenment, but you wouldn't be able to just meditate your way to enlightenment. You need other things besides meditation. So that's why after our meditation, I'm going to share a talk with you to help you understand what's going on in your own mind, because then you'll understand the teachings of the Buddha and why he teaches what he does in order to be able to help you. The Buddha's teachings aren't about believing a bunch of things and hoping something good happens when you die. It's also not about rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, and prayer. The Buddha didn't teach any of those kinds of things. If you were seeing those kinds of things associated with the teachings of the Buddha, those aren't his actual teachings. He taught you to be able to train your mind and uproot these pollutions that then the mind can experience this enlightened mental state. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with some chanting to ease us into the meditation. You guys are welcome to join in the chanting. I see many of you guys have chanting sheets. For those of you guys online, you can access this by going to our website, buddhadailywisdom.com. You can click on free books, and then you just scroll down towards the bottom and you'll be able to see the chanting sheets there. And for those of you guys here, they're over on a cabinet over there. You're welcome to help yourself to one of the chanting sheets. Now, during the lifetime of the Buddha, he used chanting as a way to help his students to commit the teachings to memory. Every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally. So he used the chanting as a learning tool or as a learning device, where today there's some people who think there's something mystical or magical with this chanting, but there isn't anything mystical or magical with it. It's not a prayer or worship or anything like that. In fact, the Buddha doesn't have any of those kinds of things in his teachings. He used chanting only as a learning tool or as a learning device because everything he taught was oral and they needed some way to be able to commit the teachings to memory. So they just recited those teachings orally, where today we study with books and audiobooks, videos, podcasts, and things like that. They don't have those kinds of things 2,500 years ago during the lifetime of the Buddha. So chanting was used in order to help people to be able to remember the teachings. If you read the English translations, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of that, I don't think the Buddha even created these chants himself. They were probably created by his students, either during his life or after his death, because the Buddha wouldn't have walked around and said, here, chant these chants to me out of respect for me, because this would be ego or arrogance if somebody did that. And by the time you get to enlightenment, someone has eliminated that out of the mind. But if you learn from a teacher how to move from anger, sadness, frustration, and all these other discontent feelings to this peaceful and joyful mental state. And this teacher didn't want anything from you or expect anything from you. They were just helping you out of the kindness of their heart. You'd probably have a lot of appreciation, respect, and gratitude for that person too. So that's why I think that these chants actually came from his students, either during his life or after his death. The reason why we chant these chants today is that it helps ease the mind into meditation and helps you to get more benefit out of the meditation itself. So if you chant along, you'll see that it actually prepares your mind and helps you to get more benefit out of the meditation itself. Once we're in the meditation, you're going to hear me providing you some guidance where I'm essentially going to be teaching you or instructing you how to meditate while we're actually meditating together. Then there's going to be a period of time of quietness where we're just all meditating. Everyone here at the temple and anyone who's joining online will just all be meditating at the same time. Now, during that period of time of quietness, I'm sure you're going to hear occasional sounds. Here at the temple, you'll probably hear a car go by. You might hear a dog barking, a bird chirping. Someone here might cough or sneeze. This is all normal. If you're in meditation with a craving for permanent silence, when you hear a sound during the meditation, you will cause your mind to be annoyed or frustrated. That's what's actually causing these discontent feelings, is that the mind craves permanence while you live in an impermanent world. Things are constantly changing around you, but the mind will crave for things to be permanently a certain way, where you can't be in an environment where it's permanently quiet. So you're going to hear sounds while we're meditating. And you can just rest and be at ease and understand that this is the way the world works, that sounds will arise, they will change, and they will fade away. This is all impermanence. Then after the period of time of quietness, we're going to come out of that with some more chanting. And then that's where I'll start the class, helping you guys to understand this topic of the three poisons, the three unwholesome roots, or the three fires. And I'm going to help you to understand the solutions of how to fix it too. Then in terms of your body position for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught: seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you would learn these different positions at different times. It's kind of like having a tool belt, and you would use these different tools at different times. And we have various courses and retreats where I share those positions because you'll need them as part of your journey to enlightenment. But oftentimes students are learning in the seated position, so I'll give you guys some guidance on the seated position and help you guys to understand this. So you can really sit however you like. What I'm going to share with you are just recommendations or suggestions that you might consider. As long as the body's comfortable, that's all that matters. But you might consider some of these things. You could be sitting on the floor, in a chair. If you're at home, you might be on a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair. You can sit however you like. But if you're on the floor, you might have some cushions under your rear. This is going to help to soften your seat a bit. And if you'd like to bring your legs together in the cross-leg position, you might decide to do that lightly. Whereas if they're real tight, it can impede the circulation in the lower body and cause pain. So you'd like to just bring your legs together lightly. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets your hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, again, allowing the circulation to flow. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If this is comfortable for you, you could use it. But again, it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way. That's not possible. So some people like to put their palms on the thighs or their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. The same thing's true for anybody who's sitting in a chair or a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair. You can also sit however you like. Some people like to put their feet flat on the floor. You might cross your legs at the ankles. That's an option as well. But you can see me sitting here in a chair with my legs crossed. So that's an option for you. And then you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. In terms of your upper body, it's helpful if this is erect. With the sternum up and the shoulders back, it'll help keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. Because meditation is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities from the mind and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. So you'd like the mind to be attentive and alert during the meditation. Whereas if you were slouched like this, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you were real rigid with the upper body, the mind could be overactive or uptight. So you'd like the upper body to be in the middle with the sternum up and the shoulders back, because not only will it help to keep the mind attentive and alert, but it'll make it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So again, I'm going to do the chanting on the way in. You guys are welcome to join in, and then I'll come back in with the guidance afterwards. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakawa Bhutang Mahakavanang Apivate Ami. Savakato mahakawata tammo Dhammang namasami Supatipano mahakavato Savakasangko Sanghang namami Namo rasa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa Namo rasa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa Namo rasa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa Iti piso mahakawa arahang sama sambuddho Vijajaranang sammuno Sakato rokawitu Anutero purisa Dhamma sati satatawa manusrang Poto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเขวาพุทธังมหาเขวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาเขวตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเขวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาเขวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารนังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังโหโตภาควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to all of you guys. Nice to see everyone here this morning. Welcome to everyone who's joining online as well. Today, as I mentioned, is the third day of a 5-day course that I'm teaching here, which is titled Foundation in the Path to Enlightenment. This is where I share all the foundational teachings to help students to be able to get onto the path to enlightenment. What enlightenment is that this individual that we refer to as the Buddha figured out how to train his mind to get to the point where it's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you'll no longer experience any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All of this can be eliminated from the mind. You'll notice that the mind has focus, concentration, clarity, and deep memory. And that comes from eliminating these 3 poisons or these 3 unwholesome roots that I'm going to share with you. The Buddha discovered these individual pollutions that are in the human mind, and he also figured out the tools and the techniques of how to eliminate them out of the mind. And as you eliminate these out of the mind, you'll actually see that the mind will brighten up, that it'll become radiant, it'll become cheerful and glad. This is through gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. Oftentimes people think that the Buddha sat under a tree, he meditated, and then instantly got to enlightenment. And this actually isn't true. You can see it in his own words that he shares that it was gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress that led to his enlightenment. He talks about these pollutions that are in the mind, and he gives you the tools and the techniques of how to actually eliminate them. And as you do that, you can actually see for yourself that the teachings are working, because you know in situations where you were once angry or sad or frustrated or any of these other discontent feelings, and when you're training your mind with these teachings and you see that the mind is evolving and that you're in those same situations and you're not experiencing those discontent feelings anymore, you'll know that it's these teachings that are actually helping you to be able to accomplish that. None of the teachings of the Buddha are based in belief. You're not believing a bunch of things and then hoping something good happens when you die. It's also not rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, and prayer. That's not what the Buddha taught. If you see those kinds of things associated with the teachings of the Buddha, he never taught those kinds of things. These are people that are misunderstanding his teachings. Instead, he taught you to learn, grow, and develop in this life, doing this inner work to be able to heal from what hurt you so that you never need to hurt ever again. But what's hurting you is not the outside world. It's what's going on inside one's own mind. And that's what I'm going to help you to be able to see today by sharing with you the 3 poisons or the 3 unwholesome roots or the 3 fires. I'm going to share these with you in a way that you can independently verify. Remember, the teachings of the Buddha aren't based in belief. You're going to be able to hear what it is that I'm sharing with you about these pollutions, and I'm going to explain to you what they are. I'm going to explain to you the symptoms that you experience because of these pollutions being in your mind, and then I'm going to share with you the solutions so you can understand how to uproot these and eliminate them out of the mind. And as I share with you what these pollutions are and the symptoms of them, you'll be able to relate that to your life, because many of you I've never met before, but I'm going to be explaining things that you experience on a day-to-day basis, and you'll be able to see that based on what I'm describing to you, that your mind indeed has these pollutions. And then you'll be able to learn the solutions of how to uproot them and eliminate them out of the mind. The core solution that the Buddha taught is called the Eightfold Path. This is the core central teaching of the Buddha that you would need to be able to learn in order to be able to fully train your mind. What I'm going to be sharing with you today as part of the solutions is just real targeted solutions. But if you haven't learned the Eightfold Path yet with the original words of the Buddha, you're going to need to learn that as part of the solutions. I have books, audiobooks, videos, podcasts. I have classes, courses, retreats where you can learn all of these things and you can understand what the Buddha taught on this important topic. Because today there's many different resources in the world that are reported to have been the teachings of the Buddha, or people might be describing it or presenting it as the teachings of the Buddha. But if it's not based in the original words of the Buddha, it's actually not his teachings. So whenever you're studying the teachings of the Buddha, you would like to learn with his original words. And I know that sounds pretty obvious for most people. Like, wouldn't you learn with the original words of the Buddha if you were interested in learning the teachings of the Buddha? Well, the answer is yes, but unfortunately, that's not where we are in the world. The vast majority of the world doesn't actually study with the original words of the Buddha. I've been to over 200 temples in my life, and I've only ever been to one temple that actually shares the original words of the Buddha. And if you do the math, that's less than 1%. So whenever you're interested in studying the teachings of the Buddha, if you're interested in getting to this peaceful and joyful mental state that he taught, which is enlightenment, you're going to need to actually study with his original words. Not only will you notice that your mind is focused, concentrated, have clarity and deep memory as part of getting to enlightenment, but you'll notice your personal, professional relationships are really blossoming. Because in the unenlightened state, you're going to have a certain amount of bitterness and harshness and hostility in your mind, and that's going to come out towards other people. And when that's occurring, it's damaging your relationships. And oftentimes people think that that bitterness and harshness is coming from the other person. They think that that other person is causing you to be that way. But what you're going to see today is that it's actually your own mind that's causing these feelings, that's causing this harshness and hostility. And I'm going to show you what's causing it and then how to actually eliminate it. You can get to the point where all your relationships are harmonious, that you don't even have a bad mood anymore. That is physically impossible to have a bad mood by the time you get to enlightenment. So as I go, I'm going to be pausing a few times and opening up for questions to see what you guys would like to ask. If you would like to ask questions here at the temple, we have microphones in the white bowl in the middle of the room. All you need to do is get a microphone, or we can pass them out, and press the gray button. You're going to see the lights come on. You can hold this up to your chin and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. If you speak here without a microphone, they won't be able to hear you online. And then you can keep these microphones with you, because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question, and you can just share the microphone with the people around you. And then when you're not using it, if you could turn it off, that'll be helpful so that we don't get feedback through the speakers. And then for anybody who's online, you can put your questions into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section, and I'll be able to see that. Or in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand, unmute your microphone, and ask any and all questions that you like that way. So this three poisons, or these three unwholesome roots, or these three fires, this is what's helping you to understand what's causing the discontent feelings in the mind and why you keep experiencing anger and sadness and frustration and all these other feelings over and over and over again. This helps you to understand why. And then I'm going to share with you the solutions of how to fix this too. These are also referred to as pollutions or defilements. It's a high-level description of what's going on in the unenlightened mind and why the unenlightened mind keeps experiencing what it's experiencing. It also explains to you why you experience certain unwholesome results in your life. In your day-to-day life, when you experience something coming to you that is unwholesome, you might think that's good luck or bad luck, or destiny or fate, or some people think that's because of God or some entity called the universe, or sometimes people blame it on other people why they're experiencing unwholesome things in their day-to-day life. But it's actually coming from the decisions that you're making. It's your own decisions that are leading to any particular result that you experience in your day-to-day life. This is referred to as karma. You might have heard the word karma being used. The word karma is from the Sanskrit language, where the word karma is from the Pali language. And the original teachings of the Buddha are in the Pali language. So people who study those will typically use the word karma. Now, if it's translated to just one English word, I would use it because it'd be easier for everyone. But unfortunately, it doesn't translate to just one English word. What the word karma means is cause and effect, or action and result. It's the results of your decisions. Whenever you make decisions wisely, you will experience wholesome karma, or wholesome results. And when you make decisions unwisely, you will experience unwholesome karma, or unwholesome results. This is a natural law that is affecting you, whether you're aware of it or not. It's not anything mystical or magical. It's not about punishments and rewards. It's not about who's to blame or who's at fault. There's no being who's overseeing this and controlling what you experience. It's your decisions that lead to any particular result. And when you have these pollutions in the mind, you will tend to make decisions based in these pollutions, and now it's going to produce unwholesome results for you, or unwholesome karma. That's why they're also referred to as the unwholesome roots, because anything that you decide is coming through your mind, and when you make a certain decision and you put that out into the world, you will experience certain results because of that. So everything you experience in life is coming from the decisions that you make. It's not good luck or bad luck. There's no such thing as good luck or bad luck. There's no such thing as destiny or fate. Your life is not predetermined. You are making decisions each day that are going to lead to certain results. It's not a being called God or some entity called the universe that is determining what you experience. It's your own decisions. And it's not other people that determine what you experience on a day-to-day basis. If you understand this, this is actually very empowering, because once you understand that it's your own decisions that are leading to any particular result that you experience in life, if there's anything that you don't particularly care for that's going on in your life, all you need to do is cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and you will experience different results. But if it's good luck or bad luck, destiny or fate, God or some entity called the universe, or if it's other people that are causing you to experience certain things in your life, you're stuck. You're locked in. You can't change anything about your life. And that's not actually true. It's your own decisions that are leading to these results. And this is very empowering, because now if there's anything that you don't particularly care for that's going on in your life, cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and you will experience different results. And that's what the Buddha is helping you to be able to do, is understand the wise decisions that lead to wholesome results in your life. If you need help to be able to see that it's your own decisions that are leading to any particular result that you're experiencing in life, ask yourself these questions. Who chose where you're sitting right now? Who chose the clothing that you're wearing? Who chose the hairstyle that you have? Who chose where you live? Who chose the job or occupation that you have? Who chooses the friends that you spend time with? Who chose whether or not you ate breakfast this morning? You can see the answer to this question is always you. It's me who chose these things. Each one of these decisions are decisions that you're making. So again, if there's anything that you don't particularly care for that's going on in your life, cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and you'll experience different results. But that's really challenging when you have these pollutions that are in the mind, these unwholesome roots. So that's why understanding what they are and how to eliminate them will really help you, because then you can make decisions based in the wholesome roots. I'm going to share that with you too, so that you can see how to produce wholesome results in your day-to-day life. Now, while we talk about these as the three poisons or the three unwholesome roots or the three fires, this is kind of like a high-level way of referring to these pollutions. The most deepest level of detail that the Buddha describes is called the 10 fetters. And you can learn that too as part of these teachings. But when we talk about these pollutions from a high level, we refer to them as the three poisons, the three unwholesome roots, or the three fires. The 10 fetters are 10 individual pollutions that the Buddha discovered in the mind, and you need to uproot those in order to really get to the enlightened mental state. So here you're just kind of learning a certain level of detail. This is the way the Buddha taught. He taught in various levels. He would kind of peel back layer by layer by layer. So this is a certain layer that you need to be able to understand. So I'm going to not only teach you these three unwholesome roots, but I'm going to teach you the three wholesome roots as well, because those are the antidotes or the remedies or the prescription that you apply. Because the Buddha oftentimes gets the reputation like a doctor, that there are certain symptoms in the mind, and then you apply a certain prescription to it in order to get rid of those symptoms. Well, you are your own best doctor, because you live with this mind on a day-to-day basis, and you can see the symptoms that you're experiencing, and then you can apply the remedy or the prescription. But if you don't know that these pollutions exist, if you don't know what the symptoms are, and you don't know the prescription, then you'll just walk around life not understanding, and oftentimes blaming what you experience on other people. So now, instead of blame or fault, you can see what's actually causing these difficulties and struggles in your life, and then actually eliminate them. So I'm going to talk about these three pollutions from a high level first, and then I'm going to go into each one in more detail and help you to understand the solutions. So the three poisons are craving, anger, and ignorance. Sometimes people refer to these as greed, hatred, and delusion, or you might hear them referred to as desire, ill will, and confusion. This is helping you to understand what's going on in the mind. And remember, don't believe what I'm sharing with you. You need to be able to see for yourself through your own direct experience. So what craving, desire, attachment is, this is the mind's wants and expectations. The mind is longing, yearning, chasing after the objects of its affection, thinking that something external is going to provide some kind of lasting satisfaction. It's almost like the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide some kind of lasting satisfaction. So the mind chases it and chases it and chases it and chases it. And if the mind gets what it wants, it experiences pleasant feelings like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, or euphoria. But if the mind doesn't get what it wants, what it's craving, what it's expecting, then it gets painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, and others. The mind is craving permanence, wanting things to be permanent, when in reality you live in an impermanent world. So for example, if you get really happy and excited when it's sunny outside, that means when it changes to rain, you'll be sad or frustrated. Or if you get really happy when your bank account balance is up here, when it goes down here, you'll be sad or frustrated. The only thing that's happened here is change. That's all that's happened. But the mind craves permanence. It's wanting things to be permanent. So therefore, by living in an impermanent world, while the mind craves permanence, your mind's never going to get what you want 100% of the time, because things are constantly changing. So you can see this in multiple situations. And I'm going to give you many other examples when we get into this in more detail. But what this craving is doing is it's motivating this longing, yearning, this chasing. The mind thinks, what do I need to be happy here? Oh, more money. That's what'll fix everything. Let me get some more money. So now you chase after money for a while, and you might get what you want and you're happy. But then if you're not getting what you want, you get angry or frustrated. And then you're like, what do I need to be happy? A new boyfriend, a new girlfriend, that'll fix everything. Let me get one of those. And now the mind might chase after that for a while. And then once again, you might get that and you're happy. But then over time, the relationship deteriorates and you end up right back in the anger and the sadness. And then the mind's like, what do I need here? What do I need to be happy? I know what it is. I'll go to Thailand. Let me go to Thailand. That'll fix everything. Let me go to Thailand, right? And now you might go to Thailand and you're so happy and excited to go to Thailand. But then when it's time to go back home, I don't want to go back home, right? You're angry and you're frustrated again because you got to go back home, right? So this is the mind going up and down and up and down. And it's coming from craving. It's the mind craving permanence. Well, again, if you get what you want, you get happy. But if you don't get what you want, you get those painful feelings. And when those painful feelings are arising, that's that anger, that frustration is arising, the mind firmly believes that it's coming from something external. So the mind will tend to push people away. This is called aversion. You might have pushed away friends or family out of your life before, or you might have pushed a certain situation out of your life, thinking that that was going to solve the problem. But you can see that that didn't solve the problem because you still get angry, you still get frustrated, you still get annoyed. If this person was the true problem, when you push them out of your life, you'd be peaceful from that point forward. Or the second thing you'll do when this anger is arising and you falsely think that it's something external, you might actually be bitter and harsh and hostile towards people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. It's almost like an animal growling and roaring at another animal, trying to fear it into doing things your way. It's like, "Rrr." And now this person, you might have damaged your relationship with this person. They might choose to leave out of your life. Or the third thing you'll do when this anger is arising, you might try to put your expectations on people, trying to control people or pressure people into doing things your way. So as long as you're pushing people away, you're being bitter, harsh, and hostile to them, or you're putting your expectations on people, you can't live harmoniously with all people, because it's only a matter of time before you encounter someone who does things differently than you. Because with the craving, desire, attachment in the mind can only be happy when people do it my way. That's the way that the craving works. And then if they do it any other way that's different, the mind gets angry or frustrated. And when that anger is arising, that's where it pushes away. It's bitter, harsh, and hostile, or it puts its expectations on people. And people might be doing this to you too. People might be pushing you away. They might be bitter, harsh, and hostile to you, or they might be putting their expectations on you. And where all this is coming from is something that some people refer to as ignorance. I tend to use the phrase the unknowing of true reality, because ignorance is like a derogatory word. It's a degrading and diminishing word. The Buddha would have never used that, but people are translating his words into English, and they tend to use this word ignorance. But a better way to think about it is confusion or misunderstanding, a lack of wisdom, misperception, right? That the mind just doesn't understand what it doesn't understand. It doesn't have the wisdom of these natural laws. It doesn't have the wisdom to understand what's going on in one's own mind. The mind firmly believes that it's the external world that's causing these problems. But the problem with belief is you don't know what's true or false. You're just believing it because somebody convinced you to believe it, or you convinced yourself to believe it. So you'll never get to peace and joy through belief. You need to actually get to wisdom. That's what's going to antidote this ignorance or the unknowing of true reality. And that's why there's no belief in the teachings of the Buddha. You need to be able to get to this wisdom. So while we call it craving, anger, and ignorance, or this unknowing of true reality, it's really because of ignorance that craving and anger continues in the mind. If it wasn't for this lack of wisdom, if it wasn't for this ignorance, you would have already eliminated your craving and you would have already eliminated your anger. But because the mind lacks wisdom, it continues to crave and it continues to have anger. It stays stuck in this continuous cycle over and over and over and over and over again. So this is the three poisons, or the three unwholesome roots, or the three fires from a high level. But now let's go into each one in detail, and I'm really going to focus on the solutions to be able to help you see what your mind is doing here and how to actually fix it. And remember, you hear me sharing things with you that you're familiar with. So this craving, desire, attachment, this is the mind longing, yearning, and chasing after the objects of your affection, wanting things to be a certain way, craving permanence. And you can only be happy when the mind gets what it wants, and when it doesn't get what it wants, it gets painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, and others. So think back to maybe your boyfriend or girlfriend when you guys first got together. You might have been really happy and really excited about that because you had a craving and a desire to have a boyfriend or girlfriend in your life. You had this new person in your life that was showing you affection, that was calling you and checking in on you, sending you text messages, maybe inviting you out to dinner or to the movies. Maybe you're going to the park and having great conversations. Maybe you're having intimate contact. This was very pleasurable for you. But over time, this relationship might have deteriorated, and slowly but surely, as it deteriorated, you guys broke up. And now when you guys broke up, you might have been really angry and frustrated about that. You might have been lonely or bored. You might have been missing this person. This is the mind craving permanence, wanting this person to be in your life permanently, where the mind thinks that it's love that's causing this. That's the lack of wisdom that the mind has. It's not your love. Love is a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. What's causing the mind to be angry or frustrated or lonely or bored is the mind's craving is not getting fulfilled. The mind, when it gets what it wants, which is this person in your life, you feel somewhat comfortable. But when you guys break up, the mind is experiencing impermanence. The mind is experiencing change. And the mind doesn't like that because it's craving permanence. So one way to say this is that the mind is craving permanence. But another way to say it is the mind does not like impermanence. It doesn't like change. You can see this if you've had someone close to you that has died. Grandma, grandpa, mom or dad, brothers or sisters. That when they died, if you had grief or sorrow or sadness, you're not a bad person. You haven't done anything wrong. It's just that the mind is craving permanence. That as long as grandma and grandpa are alive, the mind's getting what it wants. It's happy. It's excited. But when the mind doesn't get what it wants, what it expects, then it experiences those painful feelings. Or say you bought a brand new car and you were so happy with this brand new car. And now when you drove it to the store, you parked it, you went inside and you came out, and there's a scratch on your car. You might be frustrated or angry. It's not the scratch that's causing this, and it's not the person who scratched your car. What's causing the anger and frustration is the mind's craving permanence. It wants this car to look permanently beautiful, when in reality, the paint's going to fade, the tires are going to need to be changed, the upholstery is going to get ripped and torn. The fact is that this car is impermanent. But if you crave permanence, when you're experiencing this impermanence, the mind doesn't like it. So essentially, the mind is holding on and holding on and holding on, wanting and expecting things to be a certain way. And you can only be happy when you get things your way. Think back to when we were children. We might have went to mom and dad, and we were like, Mommy, Daddy, can I have chocolate and ice cream? They were like, sure, here you go. Here's your chocolate and ice cream. Ah, thank you, Mommy and Daddy. You're so nice. You're the best Mommy and Daddy ever. Right? And then the next day came around. We're like, Mommy and Daddy, can I have chocolate and ice cream? Sure, here you go. Here's your chocolate and ice cream. Ah, thank you so much. We're so happy, right? But then the third day comes along and we say, Mommy, Daddy, can I have chocolate and ice cream? No. You're the worst Mommy and Daddy ever. Right? This is the mind not getting what it wants, what it expects. It was craving that chocolate and ice cream. It wasn't mom and dad that was causing the anger and frustration. It was our own mind, because our craving was not fulfilled. We didn't get what we wanted and what we expected. So the mind in the unenlightened state has this craving, desire, attachment, the longing, the yearning, the chasing after the objects of your affection. It's almost like an unquenchable thirst. The mind thinks something external is going to provide some kind of lasting satisfaction. So it chases and chases and chases and chases. And it can only be happy when it gets what it wants. And when it doesn't get what it wants, it gets the anger, sadness, frustration, and other feelings. So there's a solution for this. The Buddha taught the Eightfold Path. That's the core central teaching, that you need to learn that inside and out, backwards and forwards, up, down, left, right, to be able to train your mind. But there's things that are really targeting this craving where the mind's holding on. It's this breathing mindfulness meditation and generosity. This meditation that we just did this morning, where you're focused on your breath and your mind moves off your breath and you're cutting that off and letting it go and you're coming back to the breath, that's training your mind to let go. Because that's what's actually going to help you to get to the point where your mind's completely peaceful and joyful. As long as you're holding on, your mind can't be peaceful and joyful. This is why when you first broke up with that boyfriend or girlfriend, that you were angry and frustrated. You were lonely and bored, or feeling like you were missing this person. But at some point, your mind let go. You were like, you know what? If he wants to be with someone else, so be it. And you let go. And that's where your peace came back. Or you're like, you know what, if she wants to move to a different part of the world, okay, so be it. And you let go. And that's where your peace and your joy came back. But as long as your mind's holding on, you can't be peaceful and you can't be joyful. So the goal of this meditation isn't to eliminate your thoughts. The goal is to notice your thoughts sooner and sooner and eliminate them, cut them off and let them go, and coming back to the breath as earlier and earlier. right? Sooner and sooner, easier and easier. So as long as your mind's holding on, you can't actually be peaceful and joyful. So the mind needs to learn how to let go. In this meditation, if you had to let go 10, 15, 20, 30 times, that's really helpful for your mind because your mind needs to let go. And now in your day-to-day life, you only cut off and let go of the unwholesome thoughts. You don't need to let go of the wholesome things. So if you're thinking about taking your mom out to dinner or out to breakfast or something like that, you don't need to cut that off, right? If you'd like to go see your mom and practice some generosity with her, take her out to have some food, in day-to-day life, you only need to cut off the unwholesome thoughts. But in your meditation, you're cutting off anything and everything that's coming up, realizing that you will have thoughts. The goal of this meditation isn't to eliminate your thoughts. Even enlightened beings have thoughts during meditation, but they have these long periods of time of quietness and stillness in between their thoughts. So the breathing mindfulness meditation is really targeting, training the mind to let go. And then there's a practice of generosity. Generosity is giving and sharing without any expectation of anything in return, such as your time, effort, energy, and resources. Because with craving in your mind, you'll find it very difficult to share. You'll want to hold on to things very tightly. This is my car, my phone, my money, my clothes, my jewelry, my boyfriend, my house, my girlfriend, mine, mine, mine. The mind will hold on to things very tightly. Typically as children, we're taught to share, but we're not necessarily taught why. The reason why is because it helps to lead to peacefulness and joy. That if you give and share with the people around you without any expectation of anything in return, this will actually help your mind to let go. So if you get your clothes out of the, say, dryer or the washing machine and they're ripped and torn and you're discontent, you're angry or frustrated about that, that's because your mind's craving permanence. When you see that ripped shirt or that ripped pair of pants and you're angry or frustrated, that's because your mind's craving permanence. These clothes are not permanent. So what you might decide to do in that situation is practice some generosity. Give away some of your clothes. Share them with other people. This will train your mind to let go. Or if you're noticing when your bank account balance is up here, and then it goes down here, you're sad and frustrated, you're going to need to share some of your money with other people. Because people oftentimes think that if I spend 3 hours doing this, I want this in return. Or if I spend 3 days doing this, I want this in return. Generosity is teaching you how to live open-handedly and be joyful in giving and sharing with other people. So I recommend you do this in ways that is very easy for you. Like say you're walking into a store and you notice that there's someone behind you. You could actually open the door and hold the door for that person who's going in. But you have to be careful because if you're standing there with the expectation that they will say thank you, when they walk through the door and they don't say thank you, you'll be frustrated or irritated or annoyed because your mind's craving permanence. You think that everybody who walks through this door while you're holding it should say thank you. But you don't live in a permanent world. You live in an impermanent world where things are constantly changing. Maybe when you walk through the door, you say thank you, but not everybody does. Not everybody even realizes you're standing there. They might be so caught up in their thoughts, thinking about what they would like to get out of the store that they don't even see you standing there. So if you're going to practice generosity, you're practicing generosity for only one reason. The one reason that you practice generosity is to enhance the quality of your mind. That's the only reason to practice generosity, that it's enhancing the quality of your mind. You don't want anything or expect anything from other people, not even a thank you, that you're just choosing to give and share your time, effort, energy, and resources without any expectation of anything in return. So if you're at the market and you're buying yourself some mangoes, maybe you would like to toss some bananas in there and give them to your neighbor. Right? This is a really easy way for you to practice generosity. You don't have to go way out of your way to practice generosity because you're going to need to practice generosity frequently on a daily basis. So breathing mindfulness meditation and generosity are really targeting your craving, desire, attachment. The mind's wanting to hold on. It's training your mind to let go. So any questions on this particular pollution or this poison, this unwholesome root, anything you guys would like to ask? Remember, we have the microphones here in the white bowl. And for those of you guys online, you can put it in Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. Okay, I don't see any questions. All right. So as I was sharing that there's this craving that when the mind gets what it wants, it experiences happiness. It experiences pleasant feelings like excitement or elation. But if the mind doesn't get what it wants, it gets painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, and others. And it will firmly believe that anger is coming from something external. So when that anger is arising, there's going to be bitterness and harshness and hostility in the mind. And then the mind's going to typically have unskillful conduct where the mind will push people away or it'll push a situation away. Or you might be bitter and harsh and hostile to people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. It's almost like an animal growling and roaring at another being. Or you might start putting your expectations on people and trying to pressure them or control them to do things your way. This is the mind trying to get its cravings fulfilled because it has these cravings. It has these things that it wants, that it's longing, yearning for. And it thinks the way to get that is to push this person away who's doing things differently than what you want them to do it. Or be bitter, harsh, and hostile to people and almost fear them into doing things your way. Or by putting your expectations on people and pressuring them to do things your way. The mind's trying to get this permanence. It's trying to get these things fulfilled where you can't experience that because you live in an impermanent world. So when that anger and bitterness and harshness and hostility is arising, it's actually coming from your own craving. But the mind doesn't understand this. And now you end up damaging your relationships because it's only a matter of time before you encounter someone who does things differently than you. If you spend enough time with someone, eventually you're going to find things that they do differently than you. This is why when you first get started in a relationship, it's going so well. Because early on in the relationship, you don't have very many expectations. You don't want anything from this person. You're just interested in getting to know them and trying to understand who they are. But over time, as you guys are together for longer and longer periods of time, you start wanting and expecting them to be a certain way. And now they can't meet your expectations. And that's where the anger starts to arise. And the mind thinks that that's coming from love or care, but that's not what's actually producing it. It's actually the craving, the desire, the longing, the yearning that's causing that. So when this anger is arising, you become unskillful and you damage your relationships. So there's a solution here for this as well. Again, it's the Eightfold Path that you need, but what's really targeting this is something called loving kindness meditation and practicing loving kindness in your day-to-day life. Loving kindness meditation is a meditation that essentially rewires your mind to be loving and kind, where you have active goodwill towards all beings, where you have a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. This is where you can be loving and kind through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. But this meditation is just filling up your gas tank. It's kind of like filling up the mind and help it to permeate with loving kindness. But then where the real transformation is happening is when you go out into the world through your intentions, your speech, and your actions, you start interacting with people in a loving and kind way. That's what the Buddha teaches you as part of the Eightfold Path. He teaches you right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, and other things as well. But that's what he's really helping you to be able to see how to practice loving kindness through your intentions, speech, and actions. Because oftentimes people don't know how to do that. So this loving kindness meditation, yes, it's rewiring your mind, it's helping you, but you wouldn't be able to just meditate your way to the elimination of anger. You're going to need to go out into the world and be loving and kind through your intention, speech, and actions, interacting with people in a loving and kind way. It's great that someone might be meditating, but if you can't go out into the world and be loving and kind with the people who you interact with, you're not actually practicing the loving kindness in your day-to-day life through your intentions, speech, and actions. So meditation is one thing. That's the exercising of the mind. That's kind of like taking your mind to the gym. But then you would like to go out into the world and be loving and kind through your interactions with people. That's what's actually going to produce the transformation. Because it's only a matter of time before you're with somebody who does things differently than you. What you would like to do is you'd like to get to the point that you can separate the choices and decisions that someone makes from the person themselves, where oftentimes people think you can only love someone who does things your way, who makes decisions the same way as you. But if you can separate the choices and decisions that someone makes from the person themselves, then you can love the person, have a genuine interest in seeing them be well while disagreeing with their choices and decisions. there's not going to be many people in the world that you agree with, right? There's going to be people that you disagree with because of impermanence. I suspect that there's only one person in your life that you agree with 100% of the time. Do you know who that person is that you agree with 100% of the time? Yourself. That's it. So if you can only love yourself, if you can only love people who do things your way, you can only love yourself. And you might actually have a hard time doing that from time to time, right? Because you put expectations on yourself. So you need to separate the choices and decisions that someone makes from the person themselves. I usually ask this question of students when I'm together with you guys. I'll ask you guys. I've never had anybody raise their hand, but I'm going to check because there's quite a few people here today. Is there anybody here that has agreed 100% with everything their parents ever did? Anybody? No? I've never had anybody raise their hand, right? The reason why you don't agree 100% with what your parents did in their life is because of impermanence. Everybody makes decisions differently. We've all had different experiences in life. It doesn't mean you're right and your parents are wrong. It just means that we've had different experiences. But your ego is going to tell you that you're right and the other people are wrong. So you need to get to the point where you have unconditional love, where you can love people unconditionally. Right now, if you're falling in love with people and out of love with people, this actually isn't love. You haven't understood what love is. What's happening in this situation is there's craving, desire, attachment that's masquerading as love. It's not actually love. So what you might be experiencing is that you meet somebody, you spend a few weeks or a few months with them, you get to know them a little bit, and you guys get really close, you get familiar with each other, and you're feeling all these happy feelings, and you might go to them and you say, I've fallen in love with you. And they say, oh my gosh, I've fallen in love with you too. And now we're all in love. Wow, we're in love, right? And now we're in love. We talk like we love each other. We act like we love each other. We do things like you love each other. And then over the course of this relationship, you're feeling like you're in love with each other. But slowly but surely, the relationship deteriorates because your expectations are growing. Early in the relationship, you had very little expectations. So they were able to meet those expectations. And you were so happy about that because your cravings were getting fulfilled. But over time, as your expectations grew and their expectations grew, you couldn't meet their expectations and they couldn't meet your expectations. And you started getting angry and frustrated at each other. And you might have said, I don't love you anymore. I have fallen out of love with you. Or they might have said that to you. They might have said, I don't love you anymore. I've fallen out of love with you, right? Well, that's not love. There's no such thing as conditional love, but we might call this conditional love. It's if you do things my way and you do things the way I want and the way I expect, I will say I love you and I will function like I love you and I will treat you like I love you. But as soon as you stop doing things my way, I don't love you anymore. All bets are off. Right? That's not actually love. That's craving, desire, attachment. That's wants and expectations. That's trying to control other people to do things your way. And you can only say you love them and function like you love them if they do things your way. What you would like to get to is unconditional love, where someone doesn't have to meet any conditions in order for you to love them, that you have a genuine interest in seeing them be well. That's what love is. Active goodwill towards all beings. Understanding that you're going to disagree with people's choices and decisions sometimes, and that's okay. That's just impermanence. You'll never agree with anybody 100% of the time other than yourself. So if you can only love people who do things your way, you're only ever going to be able to love yourself. And again, you might even have a hard time doing that. So you'd like to separate the choices and decisions that people make from the person themselves so that you can love the person, meaning you have a genuine interest in seeing them be well while you'll disagree with the choices and decisions that they make, right? And in this situation, you can love everybody, understanding that people are going to make decisions differently than you, and that's okay. That's their choice, right? Instead of trying to force other people to do things your way. So this loving kindness meditation is going to rewire your mind, helping you to get closer and closer to having nothing but loving kindness in your mind, getting rid of this anger and hostility, the bitterness, even the slightest dislike. Right now, if you have people that you like and people that you dislike, you might think that that dislike is coming from them, but it's actually coming from your own mind. There's certain expectations. There's certain things you want this person to be. And as long as they do it that way, you'll like them. But when they don't do it your way, you'll dislike them. So you like to get to the point where you don't have that in your mind anymore, and you can just have love and kindness for everybody, realizing that everybody's going to do things differently, and that's okay. That's their choice. So the loving kindness meditation and practicing loving kindness in your day-to-day life is what's going to help you to get there. So do you guys have any questions on this particular poison or this pollution of anger, the bitterness, the hostility, the frustration, getting to the point where you don't even have the slightest dislike towards others? No questions? I bet you guys can't even imagine that, right? Getting to a point where you don't even have the slightest dislike towards others. This is the better way of life that the Buddha taught. He didn't teach rules and commandments. He didn't teach a religion. He didn't teach rituals and ceremonies. He taught you this better way of life, getting to the point where you can love and have kindness for everybody, and you don't even have the slightest dislike for others. So the way to get to this, oh, you have a question? Yes, sir. Yep.
Is it on?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I don't want to belabor the point, but I am curious. I understand there's no concept of good or bad, but when we talk about wholesome acts, unwholesome acts, like the things that we're trying to cultivate in our own mind, I guess I understand the concept of having love and goodwill towards all beings. But when there are beings that are actively refusing to do those wholesome things or not cultivating these wholesome acts and very consistently doing the unwholesome acts, I guess that's where I intellectually understand this idea that you separate the two and you love them for the being and not necessarily their inability to do the wholesome acts. But I guess I'm still struggling with, I understand it's not good or bad necessarily, but there is some not expectation, but there's some delineation, right, between this idea of wholesome and unwholesome. And that's, I guess, where I'm having a hard time reconciling that, like the distinguishing between those two things and not feeling a type of way about people that tend to go in the unwholesome way, if that makes sense.
Sure. So if you understand that there's certain wise decisions that lead to certain wholesome results, right now your mind doesn't fully have that wisdom because the mind's in the unenlightened state. When you're having anger and sadness and frustration, all these feelings, that shows you that your mind's not fully awake. So you yourself don't have that wisdom yet. So if you're looking at someone else and they don't have that wisdom, now your mind's just judging them. This is the conceit that the mind's trying to place itself above people or below people. And you need to understand that everybody's in their own journey in life, and whatever decisions that person makes, it's affecting them. That's the results of their decisions, and your decisions affect you. And if this person's making decisions, let's just say, I don't know, some example, maybe they're hitting cats and dogs, they're beating up animals and being abusive to animals, and you see that that's what they're doing, you have a choice to make in the situation of what you're going to choose to do. But ultimately, you don't have to continue to spend time with that person. You can just decide that I'm going to step away from this relationship and I'm not interested in being around this person any longer. But if you're experiencing anger and sadness and frustration, just choosing to leave from the relationship doesn't solve that, because there's an underlying craving that you have where the mind's expecting this person to function in a certain way. That's the craving for permanence, where you've got to understand that, sure, you might choose to step away from the relationship because you're not interested in being around someone who's abusive to animals, but also you need to eliminate your craving in order to be able to get to the point where your mind's peaceful and joyful. Because if you are just angry and frustrated and agitated, it doesn't help you and it doesn't help anybody. It's just causing harm within your own mind. Sometimes what we think in the unenlightened state is we're going to hold on to anger, we're going to hold on to grudges or resentment, and that's the way to get back at that other person. But it's actually kind of like holding on to a hot coal, trying to burn somebody else, and the only person getting burned is yourself. So you can make choices about who you choose to spend time with, but you need to be sure that you do so without any kind of craving or expectation that people should do things a certain way. You can know what's wise and what's wholesome for yourself based on these natural laws, and you choose to do those things, but understand in permanence that not everybody has that wisdom and they're going to make decisions differently. And that's a decision that they're making that is then going to affect them. That's the results of their decisions. And now you experience the results of your decisions, and you choose wisely of who to spend time with. The Buddha talks about this as a real focal point of your path to enlightenment, is to cultivate wholesome relationships. Because as long as you have people who are doing unwholesome things around you, you will tend to lean in that direction. So you would like to cultivate relationships with wholesome people. But the only people who are going to do things 100% wisely all the time is an enlightened being. So if you can only spend time around enlightened beings, your mind's not enlightened yet. Because by the time you get to enlightenment, you can spend time around anybody and everybody and be completely at ease and peaceful. So you just need to eliminate any craving for other people to do things a certain way and understand that their decisions are affecting them. It's not affecting you. You can make a decision to step away, but you've got to eliminate your craving for other people to do things a certain way. Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, so this anger and hostility, this bitterness and harshness that arises in the mind, it's all coming from the mind's craving, the desire, the attachment, that the mind can only be happy when it gets what it wants. But when it's not getting what it wants, it gets these painful feelings. And when anger and frustration and all these other feelings are arising, the mind oftentimes will become unskillful. And where all of this is coming from is actually the next pollution, which is called ignorance, or the unknowing of true reality, the lack of wisdom. The mind just doesn't understand what it doesn't understand. The mind in the unenlightened state will firmly believe that these feelings are coming from something external. I'm sure you've been in knockdown, drag-out fights with people and arguments where you're trying to convince people to stop doing what they're doing, or else you're going to continue to get angry and frustrated. That's the mind's lack of wisdom. It doesn't understand that it's your own craving that's producing that. It's your own longing, yearning. So because of the mind's misunderstanding and confusion, its misperception about how the world truly works, it continues to stay stuck in this unenlightened state, continue to experience anger and sadness and frustration over and over and over again. So while we call it craving, anger, and ignorance, it's really because of ignorance, or this unknowing of true reality, that the mind continues to crave and it continues to have anger. So you can get to the point where you eliminate all of this. And the way that you do that is through wisdom. Wisdom is what's going to transform the mind away from this unknowing of true reality, from this lack of wisdom, from this ignorance or this confusion or misunderstanding. That's why there's nothing in the teachings of the Buddha that are based in belief. You need to get to wisdom, where you can see the truth, where you've independently verified his teachings. So what you do is you learn, investigate, and examine his teachings. You then reflect on them to verify if they're true or they're false. And then you practice his teachings. And as you're practicing his teachings, that's where the real transformation is occurring. And you're cultivating wisdom to know the truth about how the world truly works. So the way that you get rid of this is you learn things like the three universal truths, the four noble truths, the eightfold path, the natural law of karma, the five precepts, meditation training, the 10 fetters, the Brahma Viharas. These are all teachings that you can learn as part of the teachings of the Buddha to be able to awaken to the wisdom of true reality. That's what we mean when we say awaken to enlightenment. It means cultivation of wisdom. The way that you cultivate wisdom is through learning, reflecting to independently verify, and then you practice his teachings. That's what's going to awaken the mind. And now you'll make wiser and wiser decisions based in that wisdom. Think about when we were a child. We didn't understand the natural laws. That's what the Buddha is teaching you, is the natural laws. When we were a child, we didn't understand the natural law of gravity. That's why we struggled and had difficulties. We fell down, we hit our head, we bumped our elbows, we broke our toys. We had all kinds of trouble with the natural law of gravity. And we were making all these unwise decisions. That's why we kept experiencing these unwholesome results, because we had a lack of wisdom of how the world truly works. And we were confused because we were living in a world that we didn't understand. And we struggled and had difficulties. But slowly but surely, we gained wisdom of the natural law of gravity. We never believed in the natural law of gravity. We could see the truth for ourselves. It's right there, right? We never believed in it. So we could see the truth for ourselves. So now we might say that we fully awoke to the natural law of gravity, because now we have wisdom in this natural law and we make wiser decisions. We tie our shoes tighter. We look at the surface of the sidewalk as we're walking. We stop being so giddy and bouncing around like a little kid all the time. And that's why now we can ride bicycles, we can climb ladders, we can get on airplanes and fly all over the world because we fully awoke to the natural law of gravity. We don't believe in it. And we don't struggle and have difficulties with it anymore because we fully awoke to it. We make wiser decisions because we have wisdom. But there's other natural laws that your mind lacks wisdom of. And that's what the Buddha is teaching you, is helping you to understand these natural laws in a way that you can learn, reflect, to independently verify, and then you can practice. And now as you're making decisions through these natural laws and your mind is cultivating that wisdom, you won't have struggles and difficulties in the world anymore. Just like with the natural law of gravity. You don't struggle with that anymore because you fully awoke to it. But there's other natural laws that your mind doesn't currently understand. And that's what you need to cultivate wisdom about so that now you won't have struggles and difficulties in the world. When your mind's stressed, when you have anxiety, anger, and frustration and all these other feelings, that's your mind struggling and having difficulties in the world. It's living in a world that you don't understand. And that's why you're experiencing all those discontent feelings. So awakening to enlightenment is to cultivate wisdom about the natural laws and now making decisions through those natural laws. And as part of that process, you're eliminating your craving and you're eliminating your anger so that more and more you get to this peaceful and joyful mental state that is enlightenment. So any questions on this ignorance or unknowing of true reality? Anything you guys would like to ask? Okay, I don't see any questions. So now I'm just going to summarize this and kind of wrap things up for us. Is what we've been talking about is the three poisons, the three unwholesome roots, or the three fires. This is referred to as craving, anger, and ignorance, or the unknowing of true reality. Some people refer to it as greed, hatred, and delusion, or desire, ill will, and confusion. There's exact opposites to this that can actually remedy these things. These are called the three wholesome roots. So generosity is the exact opposite of craving. Craving is the selfishness, the holding on, craving permanence, wanting things to be my way. Well, generosity is giving and sharing with others, being joyful and letting go. The anger, the bitterness, the harshness, the hostility, the opposite of that is loving kindness, where you have a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. And then there's this ignorance or this unknowing of true reality, this confusion and misunderstanding. The opposite of that is to cultivate wisdom. That's what's going to antidote all of this for you. And that's why you don't ever believe any of the teachings of the Buddha. And that's why he never taught any rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, or prayer, because there's no amount of that can lead to wisdom. It doesn't matter how much water someone sprinkles on you, it's not going to cultivate wisdom. It doesn't matter how many strings somebody ties on your wrist, it's never going to cultivate wisdom in your mind. So you need to be able to get to the point where you're cultivating wisdom. And now you can navigate the world, making wiser and wiser decisions where you're not struggling and having difficulties any longer. So when you're purifying the mind to get to enlightenment, you're applying the tools and the techniques that the Buddha taught in order to eradicate these pollutions out of the mind. And that's what's actually leading to more and more peace and more joy. So while we call it attaining enlightenment, sometimes you might think about it as your mind is already enlightened, and you've got to get these pollutions out of the way in order for those qualities to shine through more and more. It's kind of like there's the sun, and then there's clouds in front of the sun, and as you peel away the clouds, the rays of the sun shine through more and more and more. And the mind's essentially the same way, that when you're getting rid of these pollutions, the qualities of the enlightened mind shine through more and more. But the only difference in the analogy here is that for the sun, the clouds are eventually going to come back. But with the human mind, when you get these pollutions out of the mind, they will actually never come back again. They'll be completely eradicated and eliminated out of the mind. And it's the path to enlightenment, the teachings of the Buddha, that are going to help you to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause here for a break to give everybody a chance to take a break. If you would like to come back and learn more, I'm going to be teaching some more after the break. I'm going to be teaching the 5 precepts, which are 5 impactful decisions that you can make either wisely or unwisely and it's going to produce either wholesome results or wholesome karma, or unwholesome results or unwholesome karma. If you've ever heard that the Buddha taught no killing, no stealing, no sexual misconduct, no lying, and no intoxicants, the Buddha actually never taught those kinds of things. That sounds like rules and commandments. It sounds like black and white. And the Buddha never taught those kinds of things. So I'm going to actually share his original words on the 5 precepts, and then I'm going to show you how to relate it to your day-to-day decision making, that you make decisions in day-to-day life. And then we're going to end up taking a lunch break for about an hour and a half or so. And then when we come back, I'm going to be teaching walking meditation. I'm going to start that at 2 p.m. this afternoon, which is a really good meditation if you're noticing you're having difficulties in meditation where you're falling asleep, or if you're noticing that you have an overactive mind and the last thing you're thinking about is being still and being in one spot to meditate. The walking meditation is really helpful for that. So I'm just going to thank all of you guys for coming. Thank you for your interest to learn and grow and develop. If I don't see you after the break, have a very wonderful and lovely rest of your day. If I see you afterwards, I'll share some more with you. If you're interested in what it is that we do here, you can see on our bulletin board over there. You can see it on our website. We have lots of different classes, courses, and retreats, books, videos, podcasts. There's lots of opportunities for you to learn, and it's all available for you at no cost. There's never a time where you need to pay anything. There's just help here to be able to help you heal from what hurt you so that you never need to hurt ever again. So have a very wonderful and lovely rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Sawadee krap. Sawadee krap. Zai jian. Oh.